Throughout history, few regimes have built such an extensive and sophisticated system of secrecy as Nazi Germany. From military operations to genocide, from technological research to political repression, the Third Reich depended on hidden information to survive, expand, and control its population. Secrecy was not an accident of war, it was a deliberate strategy designed to protect power, confuse enemies, and maintain absolute authority. At the center of this system stood Adolf Hitler, who believed that knowledge was a weapon. He ruled not only through armies and propaganda, but through carefully managed information. Hitler understood that if enemies, allies, or even his own people learned too much, his control would weaken. As a result, secrecy became a cornerstone of Nazi governance. The philosophy of secrecy. Nazi secrecy began with ideology. Hitler and his inner circle believed they were engaged in a historic struggle for survival. In their view, Germany was surrounded by enemies and traitors. Every piece of information, every plan, every experiment had to be protected. This mindset created a culture where secrecy was considered patriotic. Officials were taught that silence was loyalty. Questions were dangerous. Curiosity could be fatal. One of the architects of this culture was Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS. Himmler built a parallel state inside Germany, one that operated behind locked doors, sealed files, and secret orders. Even high-ranking officers often knew only fragments of larger plans. Compartmentalization, dividing knowledge. One of the most effective Nazi techniques was compartmentalization. This meant dividing information into small pieces and distributing them to different people or departments. No one person knew everything. A railway worker might know he was transporting prisoners but not their final destination. A factory engineer might build parts for a weapon without knowing what it was for. A camp guard might follow orders without seeing the entire system. This structure made leaks extremely difficult. Even if someone wanted to betray the regime, they rarely possessed enough information to cause serious damage. Encrypted communications. Military communication was the backbone of Nazi secrecy. Orders had to travel across Europe, from Berlin to Africa, from France to the Eastern Front, without being intercepted. To achieve this, the Nazis relied heavily on encryption, especially the Enigma machine. This electromechanical device encoded messages using complex rotating rotors, creating millions of possible combinations. Every day, operators changed the settings. Without the correct configuration, messages appeared as meaningless strings of letters. German commanders believed Enigma was unbreakable. This confidence led them to send enormous amounts of sensitive information troop movements, supply routes, battle plans over radio. They did not know that Allied codebreakers at Bletchley Park, led in part by Alan Turing, had managed to crack the system. Ironically, Nazi secrecy collapsed, partly because they trusted their encryption too much. The role of the Gestapo and SS. Inside Germany, secrecy was enforced through terror. Two organizations were central to this system, the SS and the Gestapo. The Gestapo monitored citizens, intercepted letters, tapped phones, and used informants. People never knew who might be listening. Even family members could be spies. This atmosphere discouraged discussion. Germans learned to remain silent. Political opinions, jokes, or rumors could lead to arrest. The SS, meanwhile, controlled concentration camps and secret operations. Many of their activities were classified even within the Nazi government. Files were stored in restricted archives. Orders were often delivered verbally to avoid written evidence. Code names and fake projects. The Nazis frequently used code names to hide real objectives. Weapons, operations, and facilities were disguised under harmless-sounding titles. For example, parts of the atomic research program were hidden under civilian-sounding departments. Rocket development at Peenemünde was presented as routine military research. Death camps were referred to as resettlement centers. This language created plausible deniability. If documents were discovered, they appeared ordinary. Outsiders and sometimes insiders could not easily understand their meaning. Hidden locations and underground facilities. Physical secrecy was just as important as informational secrecy. The Nazis built hundreds of hidden facilities across occupied Europe. Factories were moved underground. Laboratories were carved into mountains. Bunkers were buried beneath cities. Entire industrial complexes were concealed in forests and caves. One of the main reasons was Allied bombing. But secrecy was equally important. By hiding production, the Nazis hoped to protect sensitive projects like jet aircraft, rockets, and chemical weapons. Prisoners from concentration camps were often forced to build these sites in complete isolation. Many died without knowing what they were constructing. The Manhattan of the Reich, secret weapons. Nazi Germany invested heavily in wonder weapons, Wunderwaffen. These included V-1 flying bombs, V-2 ballistic missiles, jet fighters, experimental submarines, advanced tanks. Each project operated under strict secrecy. Engineers worked behind fences and guards. Correspondence was encrypted. Testing sites were remote. Even senior officers were sometimes unaware of parallel projects. Hitler encouraged competition, believing it would speed innovation, but it also increased secrecy. Secrecy of the Holocaust. Perhaps the darkest example of Nazi secrecy was the Holocaust. Although millions were involved in the machinery of genocide, the leadership tried to hide its true scale and purpose. Orders were vague. Documents used euphemisms like special treatment or final solution. Death camps were placed in remote areas. Victims were transported in sealed trains. Witnesses were isolated. Records were destroyed. Many ordinary Germans suspected something terrible was happening, but few understood the full extent. This deliberate ambiguity allowed the regime to deny responsibility and reduce resistance, destroying evidence. As defeat approached, secrecy shifted to destruction. In 1944 and 1945, Nazi authorities ordered massive document burnings. Files were shredded. Archives were flooded. Witnesses were executed. Camps were evacuated or dismantled. Gas chambers were blown up. Graves were concealed. The goal was simple: erase history. While they failed completely, much evidence was lost forever, making post-war investigations difficult. Internal rivalries and hidden power. Ironically, Nazi secrecy also existed within the leadership itself. Hitler encouraged rivalry between organizations. The SS, Wehrmacht, Gestapo, ministries, and party offices. Each group guarded its information. Each spied on the others. Cooperation was limited. This divide and rule strategy prevented any single institution from becoming too powerful, but it also created chaos. Important intelligence was sometimes withheld. Warnings were ignored. Resources were duplicated. In the end, secrecy weakened coordination and contributed to military failure. Why secrecy was so important? For the Nazis, secrecy served several purposes. 1. Protection from enemies, hiding plans from the Allies. 2. Control of society, preventing resistance. 3. Internal discipline, enforcing loyalty. 4. Psychological power, creating fear and uncertainty. 5. Moral camouflage, hiding crimes. Secrecy allowed ordinary people to participate in extraordinary evil, while telling themselves they did not know the full truth. The collapse of the system. No system of secrecy is perfect. Allied intelligence, resistance movements, spies, and defectors slowly exposed Nazi operations. Intercepted messages, aerial photographs, and captured documents revealed hidden networks. When Germany collapsed in 1945, its secret world was opened. Investigators uncovered bunkers, archives, laboratories, and mass graves. The illusion of control vanished. Legacy of Nazi secrecy. The Nazi system of secrecy became a model both negative and instructive for later governments. Intelligence agencies studied it. Military planners analyzed it. Historians documented it. It demonstrated how secrecy can protect power, but also how it can enable mass crime. Most importantly, it showed that when information is controlled by fear, truth becomes the first victim. Nazi Germany hid its secrets through a combination of encryption, terror, compartmentalization, hidden facilities, coded language, and systematic destruction of evidence. These methods allowed the regime to wage war, commit genocide, and maintain control for more than a decade. But secrecy could not save it forever. In the end, truth emerged from ruins, archives, and testimonies. The hidden world of the Third Reich became public history, a warning of what happens when power operates in darkness.